Welcome.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Okay, let's get started. Are you ready for the next paradigm shift about evening? The true meaning of evening according to Hebrew definitions. When is the Hebrew evening? In order to understand the word erev, or evening, there are several other terms that must be understood as well. This will be a brief examination of 5 separate units given on day 1 of creation. Have you been interested in when the Hebrew evening occurs, as seen and proven by example in the scriptures? Have you ever considered going to the original Hebrew language for the definitions of erev, the Hebrew word that has been translated into English as evening? Here's a comparison of Hebrew letters. The word erev, or evening, consists of 3 Hebrew letters, ayin, resh, bet, and it looks like this. You see in the 2 boxes there, one is a flame and one is a Paleo-Hebrew. Hebrew is read from right to left, the opposite of English. We must be very aware of this. This word erev is used 136 times in 129 verses in the Hebrew concordance of the KJV. Personally, I equate the level of importance on this word equal to oxygen. No, I'm not exaggerating here. It really is that important. I'm serious about that. Strong's Concordance has given erev the number of H6153, and it seems everyone has accepted that designation. The units of day 1 of creation. The first day of creation houses 5 separate units or components found within the first 24-hour cycle. They are light, and number 2, darkness. Please note these numbers, H2822. Then there's darkness again, H3915. There is 2 types of darknesses in the first day of creation. Then there's erev, H6153. And there's boker, H1242. The first mention of erev in Genesis, the first usage of this word erev is found in Genesis 1:5. We need to look at this very carefully because there are those who desire to place the erev, evening, in a location where Yahuwah has not placed it. And you're going to see a visual of that statement farther on in the slides. You're going to see this very clearly. We will not go into detail here, as that will be seen in another study on Genesis 1. Well, I added it later on in the study, so you're going to see it. The first 2 units identified. Let's examine verse 4 first, as it sets the foundation for this interesting word, erev. Genesis 1:4. And Yahuwah saw the light that it was good, and God divided between the light and the darkness, choshek. That darkness is H22 or H2822, and that is the choshek darkness. Pardon me when I try to pronounce that word. The first 2 units are light, H216, or, and darkness, H2822, choshek. Genesis 1:5, the first division of light and darkness. And Yahuwah saw the light that it was good, and Yahuwah divided between the light, the or, and the darkness, the choshek. Note carefully that Yahuwah divided the light, or, and the darkness, choshek. This choshek darkness is first mentioned in Genesis 1:2. It is an evil, contaminated atmosphere that resulted from a very momentous event to be discussed later. For those that are not familiar with this evil contaminated atmosphere, there is a massive amount of information, all recorded and documented, that is going to back this up. You will be seeing this later on, sometime in this club. Darkness, given another definition. Upon this division of light and darkness in verse 4, another identity is brought forth called Leil. Notice the number, H3915. Genesis 1:5a. And Yahuwah called the light day, and the darkness, the Choshek darkness, and he called night Leil. That night is H3915. This Leil is likened to the night darkness we see during our night season today. The third unit brought forth. Note carefully that we have seen three separate units given at this point in day one of creation. They are light, darkness, H2822, and that is the evil contaminated atmosphere. And number 3, darkness, H3915, night. That's the Leil, that is the third unit. Genesis 1:5a. And Yahuwah called the light day, and the darkness he called night. Note, the Choshek darkness is also a part of our cycles, increasingly so in these latter times. We will not be concentrating on the Choshek darkness in this study, for that is another topic altogether. In Genesis 1:4 and 5, there are a total of 5 units named by Yahuwah as being fully part of the first cycle of the week. Having already identified 3 units of the 24-hour cycle, we need to look closely at the last part of Genesis 1:5 to identify the last 2 units. And Yahuwah called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening. There is that word Erev. That is the first mention of Erev. And there was morning, Boker, the first day. Here we see the last 2 units, Erev, or evening, and Boker, morning. Another generic term for both evening and morning is twilight. This is the final list of 5 units for day 1 of creation. Light, darkness, H2822, evil contaminated atmosphere, and darkness, H3915, which is night and the third identity. Erev, H6153, evening, and Boker, H1242, morning. Boker is not discussed until another study. Addressing possible confusion. Darkness, H2822, and darkness, H3915. And Yahuwah called the light day, and the darkness he called night. Do you see the 2 difference in numbers up there? Perhaps you have noticed on day 1 of creation, the word darkness is listed with 2 different Hebrew word numbers as darkness 2822 and darkness 3915. Why does Yahuwah apply 2 different units with the same word to one phase of this cycle?
Good question.
Would this not be confusion? Yes, to us it would be confusion. However, in Hebrew, 2822 and H3915 are 2 very different words with 2 very different meanings. Therefore, this area needs more clarification because there is a lack of word choices when translating from one language to another, especially to English. There is no confusion in Hebrew between darkness 28:22 and darkness 39:15. And Yahuwah called the light day, and the darkness he called night. There is no need for confusion between these two Hebrew word numbers that have the same word of darkness in the English language. They have completely different word definitions. Darkness, H28:22, is basically an evil, contaminated atmosphere that came about due to a disastrous event which happened between verses 1 and 2. In simple terms, this H28:22 darkness needed cleansing to establish the unit Yahuwah calls darkness 39:15, or what we now call night. If you remember, the Ruach, the Spirit of Yahuwah, was fluttering above the waters. Brad Scott explains that very clearly from the Hebrew as a cleansing action, that their cleansing needed to be done on the waters at that point. And that is part of this evil, contaminated atmosphere that came about with the darkness of 28:22. That's just a little snippet. We're going to leave that, but that is going to be explained. We have, Charlene, how many studies on creation do we have available? About 5, 6? There's lots. It goes into great detail on that. But first things first. And Yahuwah called the light day, and the darkness he called night. In the first part of Genesis 1:5, the light season that is named day is direct light, or for us today, actual direct sunlight when the sun is above the horizon. Darkness, the night, as we see it outside when we look outside, H39:15, is the total absence of light, or for us today, the total absence of sunlight. So what are these two other identities? Ereb and Boker, twilights. What are they? The reason for this study is because some feel the two units of Ereb and Boker, or twilights, have nothing in common with the night season. But do these twilights of Erev and Boker have anything in common with the light season where there is direct sunlight? For clarification, direct sunlight is when the sun is above the horizon. Because of these questions, we must examine some Hebrew definitions to arrive at concrete conclusions. Our concentration will be on the word Erev. Unlike the word darkness, the definitions for Erev are tied directly to Boker. Because Strong's is so common, let's start looking at H6153, where the root word is declared to be H6150. We will then compare to several other sources. Strong's, Erev, H6150, with 6148 through the idea of covering with a texture. Note this in the color green, to grow dusky at sundown, be darkened toward evening. 6151, Erev, to commingle, mingle, mix. 6153, Erev, from 6150, evening tide, night. 6151, Erev, from 6148, the web or transverse threads of cloth, also a mixture or mongrel race, Arabia, mingled people, mixed, multitude, woof, Note, the base theme of this word is mixture or mingling. The Etymological Dictionary of the Hebrew Language, Erev, H 6150. Some definitions apply to light, to set, said especially of the sun, to enter, to go in, to go down, or no, to go down. It became evening. It grew dark. Sunset, evening. Mixed, to mix, was mingled, mixture, and woof. And Mario just asked me, what is woof?
What is woof?
Let's check the Webster's Dictionary. To weave, the threads that cross the warp, the weft. In other words, mixing once more. Hebrew English Lexicon by John Parkhurst from 1762. And I want to make sure that people understand that this lexicon does not use the Masoretic vowel points. And I just want you to note that for now. Some people will know what I mean. Evening, to mix, mingle, be mingled, a mixture, mixed multitude, rabble of flies or insects. The mixers, mixed ones, light and spirit mixed together. The heavens or celestial fluid consists of this mixture, to be darkened, duskily obscured. Ben ha-arbeim, between the evenings, or more literally, please pay attention to this, more literally, between the mixtures. And our next PowerPoint that we watch at some time is going to be directly addressing this Ben ha-arbeim. And it is interesting.
It's also freeing. It is so freeing.
Yes. At sunset, when the cool, dark air mixes, or night air mixes with it. Can I read that again? At sunset, when the cool, dark air mixes, or night air mixes with it. Please keep that little phrase in mind, because you're going to see a graphic coming up in a little bit that's going to have, it'll just relate really well. The evening air from the western or darkened part of the heavens begins to mix with the day, which mixture continues till night. When the day is overpowered, the darkness prevails and the mixture of daylight ceases. Gesenius Lexicon, Blue Letter Bible online, that's where I took it from, Erev. This is one important slide. This is probably one of the more important slides of this whole presentation. According to the opinion of the Karaites and Samaritans, which is favored by the words of Deuteronomy 16:6, the time between sunset and deep twilight. Notice this. The Pharisees, however, see Joseph Bellum in Judah 6:9-3, and the Rabbinists considered the time when the sun began to descend to be called the first evening, Arab, little evening, when it begins to draw toward evening, and the second evening to be the real sunset. If you do not understand what that means, they consider that when the sun is at high noon and it appears to drop in the sky, when it appears to drop in the sky, they declare that as the beginning of the first evening. Does that fulfill the Hebrew definitions? The Pharisees and the Rabbinists, the Talmud, do not consider the original Hebrew definitions of the word erev. Instead, they declare or manipulate that Erev, evening, has the meaning of when the sun starts to lower itself in the sky. Thus they declare that the start of the first evening is at the point of noon when the sun appears to descend in the sky. Let's look at a graphic and determine if there is any possibility of darkness arriving to begin the mixture with the light of day at this time. The Pharisees and Rabbinists tell us that when the sun starts to go down at noon, that is the first Erev, evening. There's your dawn, your sunrise, your noon, your sunset, and your dusk.
Okay. Hey, Tim, I wanted to point something out here.
Yeah.
Zoom is going to shut us off in about, what is it, 7 minutes. And if I want to make sure that we all understand what you're saying so far, is that there are two mixtures we're finding out. There's two times where both light and dark mix together. And one is before the day and one is before the night.
That's what they want to say. They want to tell us that the darkness, okay, I'm going to hit this one more time. From whence cometh the darkness to mix with the direct sunlight of the day? Has anybody seen darkness in the middle of the afternoon that can cause a mixing action with the light? Can that darkness in the middle of the afternoon fulfill the definitions for Erev? That means there is a mixture there. Can darkness appear in the afternoon when there is direct sunlight in the sky? Okay. It can't, as I've never seen it. Now, I want to read Luke 12, verse 2. Can someone, can we go there? I didn't realize we were that pressed for time. I had no idea.
Actually, I'm wrong. I'm on Mountain Time, and I was thinking Pacific Time.
Praise Yahuwah. Woo!
Yeah, we had 2.5 hours total before Zoom shuts us off.
Okay, excellent.
So we started at 6:30 our time. It's almost 8 o'clock here, and so I started getting panicky. So my fault.
Okay, well, we got some time. That's excellent. Okay, does everybody see what the rabbinical declaration is, where they claim that the first evening, the first Erev, starts after noon and continues to sunset? Is there anybody that does not see that?
No. You're asking the question, do we not see that that's what they did?
Yeah, like it. I'm asking. I can't see the people's pictures here. I can't see. So you have to tell me what's going on, Mario. Is there anybody that doesn't or that understands that the rabbinical Talmud and the Pharisees declare there is a mixture of darkness and light in the middle of the afternoon?
Yeah, I see Charlene's finger is up.
Okay.
Yes. What I would like to say, Tim, is that the way that I understand it is because once the sun hits noon, that is at the midway point. And 1 moment after noon hour, the sun is now going past the meridian. That's how we get PM, 12:05 p.m., past the meridian. If you're watching the sun in the sky, it will appear to be going down or starting to set. Yes, it is, because all morning it's been coming up. At noon hour, it starts to go down. So the rabbinical idea is that at the noon hour, this is when the sun is beginning to set, even though it's a far ways from the horizon. And yes, it is true. The sun is on its downward track to set. So there has to be an understanding of the definition of terms. But with the rabbis, they sometimes take these definitions and kind of play with them a little bit to make it fit what they want it to say. And we will be talking about between the evenings, which Tim mentioned, probably on another day. But that's what, I don't know if the other people are understanding that, but that's what the rabbis are seeing, that the sun is starting to set.
Okay, that is very good, Charlene. Thank you, and I appreciate you jumping in. Feel free to do so at any time. So what the point what I'm trying to bring across right now is when the original Hebrew words were written, if they wanted to say that there was an evening in the middle of the afternoon, would they not use another word that says the sun going down in the sky? Why did they use the word erev, which means a mixture? Because that is the original Hebrew words, is a mixture. And that is specifically determined upon when after sunset, when the darkness can mix with the light.
Now, from our own personal experience in the natural, if I'm outside at 12 p.m. and it turns 12:01, I didn't see nothing.
Yeah. This is exactly what I'm trying to bring out.
Yeah, and that could be true down there in Arizona, but up here in Canada you will. Tim, can you just back it up? Take the question away. I have something else I want to say. You don't have to take that away, but this is where we're going to start learning some rules about how to use a dictionary. And what we have found is the most difficult part of a calendar study is that most of us do not know how to use a dictionary properly. And we all learned it back in grade 9 and 10, but we're going to have to learn it again. So when the word evening shows up for the very first time in the scriptures, and you look up the meaning in the Hebrew, the very first definition is the one that the word will take, period. And I don't know if you can remember what the definition was, and maybe Tim can roll it back. The very first definition of evening or rev was dusk or twilight.
So you're referring to the law of first mention.
And that as well. Yes, that as well. So there are some calendar rules, just scriptural rules. Tim, you can go into just take it off your slideshow and just choose the slide on the side. You can find it easier that way. So when you come across the first time a word is used in the scriptures, most often it takes the first definition. So how the rabbis managed to take the second definition for the word evening is really kind of interesting. But you know what? They are counting on the fact that most people don't know the rules of how to use a dictionary. Now, these rules of how to use a dictionary do not apply just to Hebrew and to Greek. That applies to every dictionary, even the ones on your bookshelf. And you're going to need to understand that, because if you don't know how to take the proper definition and fit it into the context of your scripture, you can twist the scriptures to mean whatever you want. And that's what a lot of people do. So in this case, the very first definition, maybe write this down. It isn't in this particular PowerPoint. The first definition for evening or rev is dusk. That is twilight. And Tim's got it on the chart. Those are your mixture areas. A mixture of light and night. The second definition for erev or evening is day. Day. That is what you're seeing there. From noon to sunset is the portion of the day season that can also be called evening in the scriptures. Not in this verse, but in other verses. When you go I was talking to somebody that was from Trinidad about this. This is many years ago. And I said to him, in North America, we say good afternoon, you know, because I was trying to explain evening to him. And he was from Trinidad, and he said, we don't do that in Trinidad. If it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we say good evening. I said, what? So there are other cultures that use the word evening to mean from the time from noon till sunset. And that is a proper definition in Hebrew, if you get the right verse to go with it, the context and the content. So the first definition is dusk or twilight. The second one is day. Those are quite opposite. And the third opposite definition is night, because your evening takes you right up to night. And the third definition will have the least amount of verses in the scripture that uses evening as night. Okay, I haven't done that research yet. The very first definition, dusk, that is the way most of your Bible scriptures in the Old Testament are going to use the word evening as dusk. That's the majority. That's why it's got the first place for the definition. So the rabbis are taking the second definition for the first usage of evening in Genesis 1. And that is something important that you need to remember. Okay, Tim.
Okay, thanks. How many times have you heard of the two evenings, with the first one starting at noon as the sun begins to go down in the sky? Did you ever question the origin of this concept?
Now, are you referring to scriptures that say like between the evenings?
No.
No? Okay.
No. The between the evenings is a completely different situation, and
okay.
yeah, that's totally different. That's going to have to be covered by the PowerPoint so it can be understood.
Okay.
And I know you've seen it.
It's a good question, though. It's a good question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just one that has to wait for a little bit.
Okay.
I'm gonna read two verses right now. I'm gonna read verse 1 and 2. Meanwhile, when an innumerable crowd of people had gathered together so that they trampled one another, he began to say to his Talmudim first, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. And whatever is concealed shall be revealed, and whatever is hidden shall be known. So these things, when they take and twist the scriptures and make us believe things that the original Hebrew authors did not intend, Yahuwah is going to reveal that to us. He will expose that to us, and it'll be through diligent study with the rest of the scriptures. I'm going to read Mark 7, 6-9. Joshua, I see you there. Do you want to read this? You're a good reader.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
And he said to them, rightly did Isaiah prophesy of you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far away from me. But in vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the precepts of men, neglecting the commandment of Elohim. You hold to the tradition of men. He was also saying to them, you nicely set aside the commandment of Elohim in order to keep your tradition.
Does it get any plainer? Yahusha says things very, very clear. He's to the point. Verse 13. Joshua, can you read that, please?
thus invalidating the word of Elohim by your tradition, which you have handed down, and you do many things such as that.
Okay, with this idea that has been passed down that there's two evenings and that the first evening is in the middle of the afternoon with a mixture, that is going to give us a lot of confusion into the scriptures if we don't understand this word correctly. It's going to give us confusion beyond compare. And that's why I'm trying to bring this out, so that we can learn to find which definition fits the verse, which definition explains the context correctly. We're going to continue on here. Foreigners, strangers, hence foreign kings who made alliance with the Israelites. And note, on the second definition, we see once more the theme of a mixture and mingling. I find the comment made about the Pharisees and the Rabbinists concept of the Erev evening beginning at noon extremely interesting, to say the least. I will comment by asking a question. Yahuwah named the time of direct sunlight or light or day. Are the rabbis and Pharisees placing themselves on Yahuwah's throne when they overruled Yahuwah's declaration by naming the specific time of or, light, as evening? By the first usage in the scriptures, the afternoon evening does not align to any divine example. And here is a Hebrew lexicon from 1776. This is also another lexicon that does not use the Masoretic vowels. The word erev, or evening. To mix, mingle the evening, when darkness mixes with light, to be darkened, obscured, to intermeddle with, surety, to engage for another, to mortgage, Nehemiah 5:3. The woof, intermixed with the warp, a mixed multitude. And I'll just go down to, well, I'll read it. Swarm, to trade, intermix in dealing, to be sweet and pleasant, where the mixtures are agreeable. The willow, it being of a mixed color, pale on one side and green on the other. A wilderness, where vegetables are mixed and confused. The weft, evening, the heavens or mixtures. Here's a Hebrew and English lexicon of the Old Testament from 1906, based on William Gesenius, translated by Edward Robinson. Mix, mixture, mixed company, interwoven, swarm, pledge, to give in exchange, a surety for exchange, token, in the phrase, between the evenings, probably between sunset and dark. For all combinations with boker, morning, become evening, grow dark. 1 Samuel 17:16. Doing it at morning and at evening. West, place of sunset, be black, black as raven. Again, there is a heavy emphasis on a mixing of the sunset to darkness period when considering time. Question. Is there a mixing of light and darkness before the sun sets? The Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament, Kohler and Baumgartner, Erev. To participate in, to get involved with someone, to turn into evening, metaphor, to go down, descent of the sun, sunset, at evening, between the two evenings, between sunset and nightfall, together with, a type of weaving, woven material, mixing, mixed race, a willow. After reading the definitions from a variety of different sources, the central theme of mixings of separate substances or units is very distinct. It is only in these two twilight portions of the 24-hour cycle, the morning boker twilight and the evening twilight, that the mixing of light and darkness occurs, and the word erev can apply. However, this word is only used in conjunction with boker when referencing the morning twilight. So in the morning, when the very first rays of light shoot above the dark horizon, from that time until sunrise is another erev, another mixture. And we're going to learn about this when we understand or when we study Ben Ha-Arbeim, which is between the mixtures. We're going to be looking at that very, very closely. Yahuwah has broken down the 24-hour cycle into 4 separate segments, so we are able to conduct our lives accordingly. Let's examine a linear graphic first and then a circular one to be sure we are all on the same page. Light, darkness, evening and morning, according to Genesis 1. Most of us are Greek linear-minded people, so this chart should be easy to relate to. I hope you can see my cursor. Can you see that, Mario? Charlie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Tim.
Okay, this is Boker. This is dawn. This is when the dawn first comes in. See, night has passed. The first light of dawn, and then here we have the twilight mixture. You see the gray box? That is your twilight mixture. Then there's sunrise. Then we have the direct sunlight rays. Then there's sunset. And here is the evening twilight mixture right here, this purple arrow to the gray box. That is your twilight mixture after sunset. And then comes dusk. The gray boxes are the areas where a mixing of light and darkness occurs. These locations for evening are according to the Hebrew language definitions. These twilights cannot be found before the sun sets, nor after the sun has risen, beginning with day 4's sunlight. At creation, that is. Direct sunlight does not allow for any mixing action to occur. And here's the circular side of it. Genesis 1:1-5, order and alignment. Yahuwah brought forth the light first. Evening mixture follows second. Next, the night season passes. Last, Boker, morning, twilight arrives, finishing day 1. Now, here's can you see my cursor, Charlene?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
This is the first day of creation. Where is it? Yahuwah has done his creating in this area. This is the light period when he did the first portion of creation. And our verses come along and it says, and there was evening. Here is your evening twilight. Night passes unannounced because nothing happened. Then the verse tells you, and there was morning, day 1. The day stops at, where's my cursor? The day stops at Boker. That is dawn to dawn. One of the definitions of Boker is an ox plowing or an ox pulling a plow. And the reason for that is when you put an ox in a field and you give him a target, he will pull that plow directly towards that target. What does that plow do? The plow splits, divides, and separates one portion of the field from another portion of the field. But what's underneath? It's still connected underneath. So that is what the Boker, the morning, does. It divides one 24-hour period from another. It ends and terminates the first 24-hour period and initiates the beginning of the next 24-hour period. So when you go through creation, as I explained, the first day, here's my cursor, the first day Yahuwah created, and there was evening, and there was morning, day 1. The second day, he did his assembling of all the components. He did not create. We do not find create on day 2, but that's a whole nother topic. So on day 2, he assembled the components, and there was evening, and there was morning, day 2. Third day, no different. He did more assembling on day 3, and there was evening, and there was morning, day 3, dawn to dawn. This is how it works. Now I'm going to stop here because we have other PowerPoints that go into great detail with this. I just want to give you a touch of how it is, what is available to you and what you'll see. The conclusion for Erev.
Tim?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Could you just back up one more slide? Yes. I would just like to say that the very first day of creation was uniquely a little bit different because Yahuwah did not begin his day with a dawn or a mixing of light and night or the boker. From what we can gather, from what the scriptures say, everything on the first day started with light, pure light, light that has no mixture of any night or darkness at all. After that first day, like beginning on the second day, that is where you have your boker come in. Okay, so boker is the dividing line that Tim was talking about, like the ox that plows the soil. So day 1 starts with light, and that means that day 2 would have to start with light. You cannot have an evening unless you first have light. There is no possible way to have an evening unless you have light first. I think we might even be talking about that, but we can discuss that a little bit later. So I just wanted to mention that the first day of creation does not start with a twilight.
That mention to me, Charlene, that mention that you just mentioned to me speaks volume. I mean, and what I mean by that is it makes sense that there wouldn't be any mixture when he, there's no mixture in him, right? And so
that's right.
He didn't begin with a dawn, which would have mixture in it, right? Or so that just sounds like him. I mean, it's like there's no mixture in him. He is light. I mean,
yes.
He's pure light.
Yeah.
Because the question will keep coming up if you're wanting to share this with other people. The question that keeps coming up is, well, why does it say evening first and morning second? And Tim, if you can get your cursor out there, do that again for me. After you have the light, the very next thing that happens is the evening. That is the proper order. Moses has it right. So you have light. The next thing that happens is evening.
Yes.
Then you have night. And the next thing that happens is the boker or the morning. So when the scripture says, and the evening and the morning, first day, it is absolutely the right order. Now, here's the question. And I want you to think about it, and maybe we'll discuss it later. Is it possible to have evening follow darkness? Is it possible to have an evening follow the night darkness? Because when people say they want their day to start at evening, it doesn't work. There is no way that evening ever follows darkness. These are questions and things that you'll have to think about, when people challenge you. If the evening starts the day and darkness follows it, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work because this green portion right here is evening. It's mixture. It has to have light and darkness. So it's impossible to have light in this green area if there has not been light here first to mix with the darkness. Without light first, evening does not happen. It's that simple, not according to the Hebrew definitions.
And also, we see too there that from evening to morning, from Erev to Bochar, wouldn't make it a complete day because it was both day and night. I mean, that's like a half a day.
Yeah, yeah. And people, go ahead.
The other thing too is that in Genesis 1, this first day of creation, these first 5 verses are your foundation for your whole calendar study. So you need to really understand this. But what Yahuwah is doing is when he says, and the light he called day, he's naming your first major portion of the 24-hour cycle. Basically, 12 hours in a day. Okay, let's just say 12 hours of light season. Then he gives you the next largest component where he says, and the darkness he called night. So Yahuwah is giving you the first 2 major portions of the 24-hour cycle in this first verse, or the first day of creation. Then he goes on and he gives you extra explanations of these little sliver twilights that are just little tiny pieces in the 24-hour cycle. He's defined the day season and the night season. That's your major 24 hours. But now there's 2 little sliver sections called twilights that belong somewhere as well. And that's why he starts with evening first, because it followed the light.
So
And of course, morning.
So he was
Morning is second.
He was working in the day, and then there was evening, morning the next day. Working in the day, and then evening, morning the next day.
Yeah.
That kind of goes along
That's
with
it.
Isaiah, was it 45? What is it? Yeah, 45, 18 or something, right around there, where he says, I am Yahuwah who created the heavens and earth. I didn't, I created it to be inhabited. I didn't do it in secret in a dark place or something like that.
Yes. I don't remember the verse right off, but that's a good one. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Charlene. I appreciate you bringing that out. Appreciate that. Okay, we move on.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Conclusion for Erev. Not one day can begin with evening, Erev, because the evening contains light received from the day season. It is impossible for evening to begin any new day because light must be present first. Light begins everything. Have you ever noticed that Yahuwah does not even mention the sun, neither in rising nor in setting, for the first day of creation? Why? Because the sunlight could not begin the day until it was commanded to. But from the beginning, the evening unit always belonged to the light season because it has the mixing of light with the night.
So what Tim is saying there is that if there's any portion of your 24-hour cycle where you see light in the sky today, where that light is coming from the sun, not the moon, the sun, like our twilights, that portion belongs to the day season. Just like morning, the morning boker, the morning twilight belongs to the day season. The evening portion belongs to the day season because they have light that is coming from the sun when it's still below the horizon. There is no light from the sun in the night season, period. So that's why he says, and the evening and the morning are the first day. They belong to the day season. The phrase, and the morning and the evening, first day, is not a definition of when the day begins. It's a definition of where the evening and the morning twilights belong. They belong to the day season. That's what we've been taught wrong. Yahuwah is defining where those sliver twilights belong. They belong to the day season, not the night season. it took us about 8 months to figure that out.
If anybody would like a scriptural example of when the dawn twilight is, go to when the angel of Yahuwah was retrieving Lot from Sodom. It says there he come there at the break of day. And Lot, he wanted Lot to flee, and Lot only wanted to go a certain distance to another town. And the angel okayed it. Lot did the journey to that other town, and it says, and when Lot entered Zoar, the sun was coming up. So that is your dawn twilight time. If you want another one, I just lost it. With
There's
Jacob, when Jacob.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Charlene.
There's one about the lepers in the siege of Samaria. They're in Kings, is an excellent one. We can do any of these studies that they want, and they're all available.
Yeah, and the other one is when Jacob was wrestling with Yahusha. He wrestled him he started wrestling at the break of day, and he tried to get his name, and he says, "I won't let you go until you bless me," and he blessed him. And then it says, as Jacob was limping across the land, the sun come up upon him. So there is a space of time between the beginning of the day and sunrise, and that is your twilight season. So myself, I judge that time as when I look and I see a little bit of light in the sky, and that's coming up, that is when I start my Sabbath. And there's no direct time like 3:05 in the morning when you have to start. And I know some people want to have that direct time. And I think if you have to have it down to the minute or even down to the half hour at the wee hours of the morning, you're missing the whole point of the Sabbath. It's that early morning time when the rooster crows. Love those roosters. They let you know when dawn's coming. Okay. Why do you suppose?
Carol, just a second, Tim. Carol has a question. She's had her hand up twice.
Okay.
Yeah, I came into this about a year ago, and one of the simplest things that helped me to really encompass all of this was, and I wasn't playing with the twilight, so I didn't have that concept. But if you think about it, the evening and the morning, looking at your circular thing, he worked during the day, and then evening approached, and then we come around, and that was the day. So days 2 is starting here, and Yahuwah is looking back onto what he did the day before.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an easy way, and if you take each day of creation like that, except the days that he assembled the ingredients, so to speak. Yes. If you look back like that, I think it kind of just helps you to see this. And the other thing that really helped me was he sets a pattern that mankind follows. 98 or 95, 98% of mankind gets up at dawn and works during the daylight, stops, gets up, and works, just as the Father worked and then did not work. These were just a couple little things way back then that helped me to grasp this.
When did Moshe go and meet with Pharaoh? It says very early in the morning. That's your boker. That's dawn. Yeah. Thank you, Carol. That's excellent. Excellent. That's the easiest way to explain it, actually.
You know,
okay.
Carol, that points out something else too, is that we're getting all of this as the after from Moses being on top of Mount Sinai. Yahuwah's like, okay, there's a mixed multitude group of people here. Let me tell you how you got there, and it's a recollection of what he had done up to that point. Not for free. This is what you do from here on out. But that was really great. Thank you.
Excellent point. Thank you, Maria. Why do you suppose Yahuwah did not begin the first day of creation with light from a created sun? Could it be this is his planned system or his built-in preventative method to restrain us from worshiping the sun? Let's always look to the light for the beginning of each new day, the first light that breaks the day before any sun is seen above the horizon. All truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And third, it is accepted as self-evident. Okay, we're open to a bunch of questions.
Well, first let me say thank you for the presentation. Thank you for bringing all that up.